All right, I'm going live earlier than the 5 o'clock time. I apologize to those that might have been waiting on there, but I'm gonna go ahead and talk about what I was thinking about today. And as you can see in the title, slavery has just changed from physical to invisible. All right, that's all it really has changed. Nothing more than changed. And we're gonna go back. I'm gonna take you back to the basics of capitalism in my perspective. Okay, when you go if you just go all the way back, capitalism was created by humans. Okay, you guys follow me? No humans, no capitalism. Capitalism was created by humans. It cannot exist without us. And humans are the only species on earth that consume unnecessarily. Everyone in the world knows that capitalism works the best here in the United States of America. The whole entire world knows. That's why a dollar is number one all over the world, because capitalism works best here. Slavery simply just, as time goes on, when in the beginning, when capitalism began, it had to be designed around slavery. It had to be. It just simply evolved from physical to invisible. That's all. It just evolved because slavery is the foundation. It has to be. Today, I know there are millions of perspectives on capitalism because each person has their own. And the debt matrix is just one of those perspectives. One single perspective of capitalism out of millions. The debt matrix is one of them, which happens to be millions of people sharing that same perspective. That's just the time we're in right now. Just right now, in this particular time in history, millions of people share the debt matrix perspective of capitalism. The SMD perspective is another one of those perspectives. How did I come to that? I was born inside the debt matrix perspective. Okay. While in there, I don't even know I'm in there. So I don't even know that there are other perspectives of capitalism other than the one I was born. I don't know that. It was not until I escaped the debt matrix to get outside of it to figure out that there are millions of perspectives of capitalism. I just happen to be in one of them. So now the SMD perspective is another. Okay, I want you to follow me. Okay. Now, all those millions of people in there are like me. Like I was, excuse me. They don't know that they live in a single perspective. So the only language they know is the one in there. This is the foundation of capitalism. Slavery cannot end. It cannot end because it was built on it. In order for it to work, slaves are the foundation. It just moved from physical to invisible. Today, the way I live knowing this fact, right? Knowing this fact, I 100% know that what I just said, slaves are the foundation. I know for a fact. So now when I think of the movie The Matrix, right? The original 1999 one where they're downtown and all the people around them are in the same color suits or clothes, and they're walking behind while those guys are standing in the middle. That's how I view the debt slaves now. It's just part of it. I don't think that they're doing wrong or try to criticize them for financing things or just clothes. That's just they're doing what they were born to do. Like I was born a debt slave. I was born that. I didn't know that till I escaped. Now I'm in a place, the perspective, the SMD perspective, my perspective is this. I try to kind of get a gauge of where my perspective may be, which I'll never know because there's an unlimited amount of perspectives. Uh, the United States is 250 years old, so I just go by that. So capitalism's been here for 250 years, and I'm 56, so that means there's about a 2 centuries of. This is just the way I'm thinking now. There's about 2 centuries of families, people that know that was probably part of the creation of capitalism here in the United States. So of course they know how it truly works. That's 2 centuries of families ahead of me. That makes sense? That's how I gauge it. Because remember, like I said before, humans created capitalism. No, but nothing else. No humans, no capitalism. Okay. So humans. So in order to have capitalism here in the United States, it had to be created here. And during the time it was created during slavery times. Okay, it just happened to be the same time, I guess, whatever, right? But it was built on that. It can't, just because evolution was happening, it cannot stop because that's what it was built on. Just like a building of your house. You know, if the foundation of your house crumbles, your whole house crumbles. So I look at it like 2 centuries of families have had this knowledge that I'm sharing with you guys now for, like I said, 2 centuries. And I'm just learning it within a few years. The wonderful thing about knowing that slavery is just invisible, if you have this knowledge and you decide to start a business, you will know exactly what to do, how to do it, how it must be done, because again, nothing works without dead slaves. And since it's a perspective, I want to call it beautiful, but to me it is beautiful. Okay, so inside, now follow me, inside the debt matrix is a perspective, just one single out of millions. The debt matrix is one perspective with millions of people in it, millions of people that share that perspective. The only language they know is the language of capitalism inside that perspective. Since they don't know since they don't know that millions of other perspectives of capitalism exist, they don't know that there are other languages that are spoken in the different perspectives of capitalism. Here, I'll give you an example so you can say, like, there's a billionaire and a person with a regular job, 40 hours a week, making car payments, mortgage payments, and Xbox payments and phone payments. Those 2 people in the room would not speak the same language. You understand? So now again, I don't know where the SMD perspective falls in all perspectives. I will never know that, okay? But I do know how far it is away from the debt matrix perspective because that's where I was born. So that's how I can tell. So when I speak the language of the SMD perspective, I know that the debt slaves within the debt matrix perspective do not understand what I'm saying. Like, let me give you an example. Taxes are a form of income. Now, I know what that means because I'm in the SMD perspective. I know for a fact that people in the debt matrix perspective do not know this because they are in debt. Math says if you are in debt, you cannot save money on taxes. So therefore cannot make taxes a form of income. Like, let me give you another example of the SMD perspective language. Even though, say like a person has a job and they decided to, at their job, they had a 401k. And in a year, they decided to go ahead and put $1,000 into their 401k, even though they have, it's like the same person has a car payment, mortgage payments, all the payments that everybody else has. But this person decided to put $1,000 into their 401k, right? Well, it is said that if you put $1,000 in your 401k, you could take $1,000 off of your taxable income. Look up the exact wording, but you could take off $1,000 of your taxable income, therefore lowering yourself in your tax bracket. Okay. It looks like that to those in the debt matrix, but in reality, if you put 1,000 minus the car loan balance, the calculator says they have no money to put into a 401k to reduce themselves in their tax bracket. You understand? Math says they can't do any of that. Math says you can't buy a house. You can't buy a house with a mortgage. Just like it's more like what I call metaphysical. Like taking something that you can't see and being able to show it to you or tell it to you physically using math. If that makes sense. Here, let me give you another example of the language of SMD. Like, say like a person, and if you don't believe me, you can go on and do this yourself, okay? There are hundreds of, if not hundreds of thousands of videos on YouTube of people driving Teslas telling you how much money they're saving by not buying gas. All of those people with videos that have financed Teslas, they're not saving anything. Now, I want you to think about what I'm saying, okay? Math says anybody with a financed Tesla is not saving money, not buying gas at all, not even close. Now, if you take a step back and say, wait a minute, but that's like millions of people that finance Teslas. Yes, millions. They can't get cars without asking the bank first. They don't know that. So they can't save money not buying gas on something that they didn't have the money to buy in the first place. You cannot have the money to buy something and then think you're going to save money as soon as it doesn't even make any sense. It's hard for me to even explain. But that's millions of people that cannot know. I mean, they can. And you know what the beautiful thing about this system, capitalism, this version of capitalism here I'm gonna say this version of capitalism in the United States of America. They taught me the number line in elementary school math class. My teacher taught me that. Zero in the middle, positive numbers in green on one side, negative numbers in red on the other. They even taught me, back in my days of elementary school, they taught me about counting money, how to subtract money. They did all that in class. I learned that in elementary school. I just didn't apply it to my own finances as an adult. Why? Because I got caught up in the perspective of capitalism. Capitalism does not work without slaves, just like since the beginning. Slaves are the foundation. But it's like 100 times better. This version of slavery has nothing to do with your race, your age, your color, where you live, what part of town, what kind of house you have. None of that matters at all. None of it. Before, when it was physical, you could see it. You could see the people. You could clearly see the people that are slaves. You could see them. They had papers back then, right? They had physical papers. Okay, here's the papers. You purchased this slave. This slave is yours. Blah blah blah, and you know their name is on it, just like a car title of a car. Today, it went to invisible. Now your credit reports are your papers. Your credit reports list all your owners, all how many businesses own you, what company owns you, whatever. It's right there listed. This is how it works today. Slavery cannot end. Or the whole thing crumbles. Not only like the slaves before them, at least the physical slaves back when capitalism started, they knew they were slaves. The property they stayed on their masters' properties. The masters had to build the properties for their slaves. Today, they still stay in their masters' properties, but the masters don't have to maintain them. They pay the masters. Listen, they pay the masters to live in the master's property. They're paying their masters. They're paying them. Now, which do you think is more profitable? The when slavery was physical, when you could actually see the slaves and see what color they are and their ages and all this other stuff. Now you can't see them at all, and it doesn't matter where they are, their age, nothing. Can you imagine the profit on that? That's like that's too much to count. And the best part of it all, they don't know, and they don't know that they live in one single perspective of capitalism when there are millions. And the only reason why I'm able to tell you this is because I escaped. Once I escaped was the only way to know that there are millions of perspectives of capitalism. And the only way for me to know that was to escape. That's the only way. There is no other way. I wouldn't have even known to look, to even pop in my mind that everything we look at is a perspective. Every single thing is a perspective. I'm just using capitalism as an example, the one you can see. Use the word homeowner, for example. There are millions of perspectives on the word homeowner. Same thing to do with property owner, same thing to do with business owner, everything. Everything is a perspective. Just because when you think of the word homeowner, you only know the perspective of that word in your brain. If I'm walking out in public and somebody calls themselves a homeowner, I don't know what perspective of homeowner they're talking about. Homeowner with cash, homeowner with a loan, uh, you making payments to the owner. Who knows what their perspective of homeowner means? And the beautiful thing about living in the S&D perspective is that I can choose if I want to be in the debt matrix perspective. It's important to be there for business, because once you create a business, you cannot do business without the debt slave. So I have to be part of it. But I don't have to live there. I can just do my business and leave. Say like you understand the S&D perspective and you're a real estate person, right? And you sell houses. You know for a fact that you wouldn't make any money if you only accepted people that had the cash for the house. You wouldn't make any money. So therefore, I understand that in order to make money, you have to sell houses to people that believe they can buy them with mortgages. I understand that. That's because that's the way it works. You just don't live in the debt matrix perspective. You go to work, sell your houses. You have to mingle around in the debt matrix perspective. But once the deal's done, house is sold, or you in for the day, you leave that perspective. Once you go back to work, hey, yeah, this house is great. You can earn equity fast, and you can do what they use all those words that the bank uses that sounds like money, but it's not. Equity, home appreciation, and all this. Those are words. None of that is money. None of it. All of it says is all that when I hear word when I hear those words. This is the wonderful thing about this language. When I hear those words, those words say, "I have a mortgage." That's what they say. Because if you owned your house, you wouldn't use words like equity and appreciation. You would just use value. What's my house worth? That's all you would say. You wouldn't even say equity. Equity just says, I have a mortgage. That's what that says. People don't talk about how many times they refinance their house. They're still gonna A person could refinance their house 5, 6 times, but still talking about how much it's worth since they bought it. None of that makes sense, but it does inside the debt matrix, which is a perspective which must exist because it's the foundation of capitalism here in the United States of America. All you have to do is think about the basics. Capitalism does not exist without humans. We are the only species on Earth, out of all the species, that consume unnecessarily. Just consume just to be consuming. Food, clothes, cars, this, that, whatever. And the best part about it all, the debt slaves have no idea they own nothing. When I escaped the debt matrix and realized I was a six-figure IT engineer that owned absolutely nothing, I thank God he pulled me out just in time. Sure did. Glad I didn't wake up at 65 or 70. Now, I also understand now Now that I'm on the outside of the debt matrix, why they make the retirement age 67. You know why? Because most of the debt slaves ain't gonna make it there anyway. They go their whole lives owning nothing. By the time they get to 67, bodies broke down because you gave all the years, the young years, to a job or whatever, right? If you even make it to 67, what is your body going to be like? What kind of health are you going to be in? Because everybody be basing their retirement on their function of their body right now. Totally, listen, totally forgetting about, again, I thank God every day, totally forgetting about my body, my brain. The most important piece of it all, my brain. I totally forgot about it. The only way for my brain to repair itself is to be asleep. Capitalism had me running so much, not only just with debt, just other life stuff, just job stuff, relationship stuff, kid stuff, on top of all of that. And then I'm working probably 40, 50 hours a week. When does my brain have time to repair the thing in my body that I cannot do anything without? I can still move, stay alive with one arm, one leg, five, just three toes, two fingers. I can still function, but I cannot function at all without my brain. Nothing. I'm doing nothing. I could only imagine if I would have kept that going, doing what I'm doing, uh, the problems and the debt, especially the debt problems, relationship issues, family issues, and working a whole bunch of hours, hardly getting in any sleep, and go all the way to six. I could only imagine what my brain would be like by the time if I would reach 67. This is learning that capitalism went from physical to invisible in the United States of America. It's almost like a blessing and a curse for me at the same time. I got to learn throughout the whole entire world, right? That because capitalism's all over the world. Many countries use capitalism, right? But I had the privilege of learning in the hardest one. This is the toughest one because now that I'm on the outside, I can see it. It's like I'm looking over it. This version of capitalism here is the toughest. How do I know that? Because everybody in the world knows that capitalism works best here in the United States of America. Come to America and you'll get rich. You know why? Because we have the best debt slaves here. I was born in the debt matrix. Everybody around me, I'm 56 years old. Nobody told me the information I'm talking to you about today. You know why? Because they didn't know it. You think if somebody would have came up to me and said, "Hey," while I'm in a debt matrix, "Hey, do you know money is an illusion to you, Linnell?" I would have thought that person's crazy. Even when I was working in my career, I knew something was wrong. I knew it. And I was right. I was living in a perspective. One single perspective of capitalism, and there's millions. From this perspective, when I watch financial videos on YouTube, when I see people talking about financial advice on TikTok, you guys have no idea what I see and hear. But it's beautiful to me. It's so beautiful. I can listen to a person for 10 seconds and tell you if they're lying or they're fake or they're phony. They don't know what I'm listening for because they don't know this perspective exists. I want you guys to really grasp what I'm saying. People in the debt matrix do not know other perspectives of capitalism exist. They don't even know the debt matrix is a perspective, probably don't even know what perspective means. Because remember, there's millions of perspectives on everything. So just the word perspective, this is how I want you guys to focus in on. Even the word perspective, you have to ask the person, what is your definition? If you come up and decide to ask somebody what I'm telling you, you got to ask them, what is your definition of perspective? What does it mean to you? Make sure you're on the same page of that first. Then you move on to the stuff that I'm talking about. Never in a million years would I have ever thought what I'm telling you if I didn't escape by the help of God. And that's all I did. I just asked God. I said, God, I'm missing something. Can you show me? Can you tell me? And that's exactly what he did. How do I know this? Because millions of people don't know what I'm talking about. They can't because they don't know this perspective exists, even though I'm speaking mathematical facts. It doesn't matter. That's beautiful to me, honestly. Somebody can come up to me and say, hey, man, I heard you can help me become wealthy. I'll be like, I sure can. And I can show you. But there's so much noise out there that they couldn't even hear me. Too much noise. But the noise is part of it as well. All the noise, everything you see in this system, those of you that are born in it like me, everything you see and hear right now in this system, all the noise and the people jibber jabbing, credit this, loan that, this is how you get, all that noise is part of it too. Especially in this social media age with the phone right readily at your hand. Good luck. The phone times unlimited amount of apps, chit chat apps, and this and that, and dating apps. Good luck. It's all part of capitalism. I was born to learn this in the hardest one. It'll make the rest of them easy, a piece of cake. No matter what country I go to, if they say, hey, I'll just ask, is there some form of capitalism here? Yes? Okay, cool. I'm with it. Because I know what capitalism is built on. Slaves. Just go there. Do they got taxes here? Yep. This is capitalism. Sure is. Because when I was in the debt matrix, taxes were always bad to me. Oh my God, they're taking most of my money and this and that and da da da. Once I got out of debt, I was like, oh, they're not bad. No, they're not bad. Only bad to people in debt, in the debt matrix. In that perspective of capitalism, because people in debt can't save money on taxes. That's mathematically impossible. Somebody designed that, by the way. Isn't that remarkable? That's just remarkable to me. I used to think to myself, man, when I was in a debt matrix, I used to think, man, somebody can go to prison for tax evasion for the same amount of time as a person that killed somebody. All I had to do was take a step back and ask myself, why is that? Now I know why. It's the backbone of the whole economy of capital. That's the backbone. Forces everybody to play. Everybody plays. Debt slaves think like say like okay, say like okay, there's a whole bunch of people right now that do like Uber Eats and all these delivery things where you pay yourself and all this other stuff, right? But they're not filing their taxes. Okay, there's a lot of people just not filing their taxes, too scared to file. They haven't filed them in so long. They might as well not. They're too scared to do it. Whatever. There's a million reasons. But what debt slaves don't know is this: they have to work. So all the companies that those people work for delivering food, those companies are reporting to the IRS what they're paying you. If you're one of these people, just understand this, okay? This is how it works. They have to report to the IRS that they paid Joe Bobby Smith, you know, 7,000 in the year of this, you know, whatever the year that you did it. One day, your job of this era that we're in, we're just in some kind of era, but you kind of work. It looks like you're working for yourself, but you're really not. One day, those jobs are going to be obsolete. Hence, Tesla's robotaxi. No drivers, just two seats, totally autonomous. Those are going to wipe out all the driver jobs and delivery food jobs. That's coming. Then that means you have to go back and get a regular job because you have to. You're a debt slave. So once you get a job and put down your social security number, the IRS is going to know exactly where to find you to start getting their money. It's just a matter of time. It's just a waiting game. Especially when you're young, you're in your 20s and your 30s, and you were just born in the time of era that food delivery, use your car, work for yourself. This is just what you guys don't know. You guys just happen to be born in a particular time that this type of work is available. But if you just pay attention, that's about to change with the robotaxi. People, here, let me give you an example because I know you probably don't believe me. There's a lot of people that order food that wish that really in the back of their mind, they might say it, but might not. They really don't want people delivering their food because they just don't know what you'll do to it. Once the robotaxi comes, the people ordering food are going to require their food be delivered in a robotaxi because there's no humans. It comes straight from the restaurant to their house. So those jobs will be gone. That's a lot of jobs. Delivery jobs, that's people and food. Because I know right now, just by the look of robotaxis, I'm not going to use Uber, I'm gonna use Tesla. Clearly, I am. And he said it's going to be cheaper too. Then you guys have to go back and get a regular job. And as soon as you do, you are going to be owned. Do you understand? They're going to own you. I mean, they already do now. This is why I believe this, because I just now realized something. There's a lot of people that owe back taxes. There's a lot of people, and I noticed this, they don't put that on credit reports. I noticed that because I believe if they did, we would be able to see how many people are in IRS tax debt. Because a person doesn't have to talk about it because it's not listed on their credit report. So they're the only ones that know about it between them and the IRS. What's up, QJC? October, what's going on? Oh yeah, once you understand how, this is what I strongly suggest too, especially with the SMD family. You guys already know. Get out of personal debt first before going into business. Your perspective of business will change dramatically. And if you go into business and it's time to first do your taxes, to go to a professional. Get it professionally done right out the gate so the IRS know that you're serious about your business. Okay? Get out of debt first. Go into business, do what you're going to do. And then while in business, you're going to see the people that have just simply created this is what I see thus far. I've seen a lot of people just they got their own business, yeah, but they've created a job for themselves. You notice how people in videos, oh man, you get your own business, man. You're going to be working 7 days a week. You're going to be working more hours than, no, I don't want that business. No, thank you. Those are, when you hear people talk like that, hey man, I work 7 days a week, no breaks, no sleeps. That's a perspective of business, okay? That's a person, this is what I hear. That's a person that never gives his brain the time to repair. When I hear a person talk about they never stop, they barely sleep and this and that, that means no brain repair. That's what that means to me. The brain is a muscle, no different than when you go work out. If you ain't done your legs in years, right, and then you walk in the gym, you start, going at it, just going hard, I guarantee you won't be doing legs the next day. I guarantee it. The brain is the same way. So can you imagine you don't hardly get any sleep because you're doing everything, you're working 50, 60, 70 hours, and then the sleep you get is not really that good because you're probably in a bad relationship, thinking about debt or thinking about work the next day, you wake up, that's not even any good sleep. So when you come across a person in business talking about working 7 days a week, they don't take no time off, whatever. You can pick up a couple of their business, whatever, but you don't want to be that person. You don't want to create a job for yourself. Because now that I live in the SMD perspective and know that slavery went from physical to invisible, time is the most valuable thing on earth to me, my time. And when you have no debt, you're in charge. You own more of your time when you have no debt. You might not own it all, but you own most of it. It's beautiful. And I learn more about capitalism every single day. You hear me? SMD family, you listening? It never stops. Every day something's more coming into vision. It's like the fog moves. It's always been there, but it's like the fog moves out the way, and then I could see more of capitalism. When I hear people, oh man, these wages are not enough to keep us living, they're right. When you hear people on videos talking about, hey, the wages are not matching the cost of living, do you know they're right? You know why it's like that? Because they're slaves. That's why. Just barely enough to keep you moving, pay for things. You know, just the other day I was like, let me give another example of the SMD outside of the debt matrix perspective. And I just wrote this on my board the other day, right? I used to always wonder when I would go to the hospital, say like I would stay in the hospital for a day or a night or whatever, right? For something, right? And then I see the bill. Everyday items that we have in our household, they're like 3, 4, 5 times the price inside of a hospital. And I used to always think, well, why is that? Because it never made any sense to me. So I figured it out. If the price of everything is covered by your insurance, okay, is covered by your health insurance, do you care what the price of anything is in the hospital if your insurance is covering 100%? Do you care what the price of anything is? No. That's why things cost the way they cost. How much? This is why they're so expensive in the hospital, because they can make up any price they want. You don't care how much things cost in a hospital if you're not paying for it. That's why it costs what it costs. Isn't that beautiful? That's amazing to me. So they can go pick up a pack of toilet paper at your local grocery store, bring it to the hospital, and you know, so like they ran out and say, hey, just run on the street, grab some, bring it to the hospital and charge 5, 10, 20 times the price. You look at the bill, see that they charge, $20 for a roll of toilet paper, but it says covered by health insurance. You don't care. You just look at it and say, damn, that's a lot of money. So if you understand how it works, it's time to get into the hospital, delivering things to them. I don't know, something, there's a connection there somewhere. I remember a friend of mine was trying to he was like thinking about doing some like hospital equipment repair or something, like wheelchairs or something, instead of somebody spend a ridiculous amount at the hospital because they got to pay the deductible and da, right? He said, I'll just repair it and then they can get it from me for, quarter of the price. The insurance was like, nope. It has to be from a certified wheelchair maker, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. They got contracts. That's what that means. You only can buy it from here. We only cover it from there. We're not covering any other. Oh, wow. Okay. Whose fault is it to be in a debt slave? It was my own fault to be there. It was my fault that I didn't use the number line that I was taught in elementary school. And they taught me how to count and subtract money in elementary school. They did. In public school. I went to a public school and they taught me that. Knowing that they taught me that, whose fault that I was in the debt matrix? Mine. It was my fault. Whose fault was it if I walked on a car lot and then they based my car payments on my gross pay, my overtime and gross pay that I make on overtime money? Whose fault is that? That's mine. That's my fault. Now I'm just learning to integrate myself into the debt matrix a different way than I was born in. It's different. I have to ignore a lot of things because they're not talking to me. Everything is different. Knowing when I walk around, The majority of people I see are slaves, clueless. Slaves driving nice cars, living in nice homes, wearing nice clothes, all disguised. They're all disguised and don't even know it. And now that this generation has the internet, social media, a debt slave can pretend to be anybody they want. You know how many stacks of fake money I've seen in videos on TikTok? Stacks of fake money. Talking about come and make money like me. When I see videos with people with stacks of fake money, I automatically know they're not talking to me. But I also know that if they're using the fake money in the videos, it's working. When you see a whole bunch of them do that, spread it up their arm, put stacks on the desk, it's all fake money. You got to remember, you got to understand that banks don't keep large amount of money in the bank because they know debt slaves have no money. So there's no reason to keep large sums of money in the bank. That's the real reason. You know, when I see videos like, do you know you can't just walk down the street, man? You can't walk in there and grab $50,000 of cash out the bank. Don't worry about it because most of you guys don't have any money in the bank, let alone 50,000. Or I'll see a person dress up really nice and go try to cash a fake $45,000 check. You don't know, like those people that do that, they don't know that they look obvious. They don't know that. It doesn't matter with how you're dressed. It's counts on with the words and the things you say that's going to come out of your mouth. You're right. They don't, QJC. They don't. Everything is a perspective. When I use words, if I'm talking to somebody, at first I had to figure out if they understand, because people will pretend or act like they know the words that they're saying to you or you're saying to them, and they'll just nod and agree. They might not know the definition of some of the words that you're using. They're not going to tell you. I've caught myself doing that a few times. You know, I'll probably listen to a video and then the person in there will say a word that I might not understand. I've been stopping myself because knowing the word defines the statement. Okay, so because if they're saying making a statement, they put a word in I don't know the definition of, that means I'm just guessing at the statement. One second here. Think about it, QJC. Car payments are based on gross income. I remember going in when I was in my 20s or 30s, going in to get a car, and I was adding my overtime hours to boost my pay up so I can get a better car. Locking myself in to having to work the overtime to pay for it without even knowing I was doing that. I would go in there, I'm gonna say, I would think like this, okay, I got a lot of overtime hours coming up. Let me work these hours, get that paycheck stub, and then I'll go in there and try to go get a car based on the overtime hours in this paycheck stub. There'd be more. Hey, listen, those car dealerships are more than happy to do whatever they need to do to sell me a car. And that's exactly what they did. Now, little did I know, since since my car payments were based on my gross income and overtime hours, now I have to always work overtime hours to keep the car. Which was even less sleep for my brain. I remember when I quit my job in 2016, man, I swear I slept for like 2 months straight, if not 3. I'm gonna say 2 to be safe, but 2 months straight. I didn't even know why I was sleeping so much. Now, I mean, I do know now because my brain needed it. Because after about 2.5 months, it just stopped. Now I was waking up normal, going to sleep normal. I was doing everything was normal. But 2 months, 2.5 months, I just slept. What it was is I got back to 40 plus hours that I had never owned the majority of my life. Did you hear me? My brain and body had to get used to owning the 40 plus hours that I had never owned my entire working adult life. Never owned it. So my body and brain had to adjust to that. Once I quit, I got those hours back. And my brain loved it. But unless I did what I did by quitting, getting out of debt and quitting my job, I would have never, ever in a million years have known that. All my life, I was born in the debt matrix, automatically programmed to understand that I will be selling 40 plus hours a week to live. That was automatic. Get a job. Nobody hardly, hey, get a business. I didn't hear it yelling that. Get a business. Never in a million years would I ever even thought of, wait a minute, what would it be like to actually own the 40 plus hours I give to this job? What would I do with it? Who am I without the LJ Young network engineer, level 5, 4, 7, whatever, right? Who am I just LJ Young? I had to figure that out. Thank God I did. All part of my journey. I'm excited to see what's next. In my mind, I'm thinking worldwide. That's what I'm thinking. But, I can't speak for God. He got me here to this point of my journey right now, talking to you. I understand that I'm talking from a different perspective right now. I'm talking from a whole totally different perspective that millions of people don't know exists. Millions. And I'm just talking about the United States. Billions, really, because capitalism's all over the world. It's really billions. Amazing. The chains have changed, the chains have changed from physical chains to psychological change. If a debt slave would go finance a car for 7 years, and just before they leave, they clamp this barbell thing around their ankle and said, you can't take this off until the car is paid off. They'd wake up. They'd be like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, this is like a tracker for us, just in case if you try to take the car and not pay for it. So you got to keep this on around your ankle until it's paid for, you sell it or whatever. They'd wake up. But since everything is invisible, when it's invisible, there's no weight to it. There's nothing hurting your skin. There's no keys or locks or walls needed. None of that. Nothing. None of that is needed because it's all invisible. Even the currency in every form, all currencies for those in the debt matrix are illusions. Gold, silver, cash, and most listen, most definitely all digital currency are invisible. Most definitely. SMD family, I want you to picture this. Physical money, listen, right now, follow me closely. Physical money right now, today as we speak, is an illusion to debt slaves. Okay? And they don't know it. Imagine what they're going to be able to do once they get rid of physical money and make it all digital. It's unlimited. Physical money is putting a limitation on it here in this particular time that we live in. It's in the way. Once they remove, sort of like, think about it like tips right now. Tips are all digital. Think about all the money they were losing when tips were physical, when people would leave actual cash. No taxes, nothing being declared. Who knows how much money that is, right? Think about how much money they're making now with tips being all digital and trackable. And then the president says, hey, we're not going to tax you on the tips. You know why? Because they're making who knows how much money now. Here, we'll give you some scraps. Because when you got to listen too, you got to listen when he says, hey, we're not going to tax you on tips. In order to get that break or whatever, you have to file your taxes. In order to get that tax break, you have to file your taxes. So imagine the people that are doing serving and doing all this other stuff that they're doing, but they're not filing their taxes. They're getting tips, but they're not filing taxes to get the break. They're not even getting the tips physically. I don't even know how that works now. Like, now that they're all digital and they put it all into the business computer, how are taxes distributed to all the workers? I don't even know. Because before, the server that's doing the table, she just used to pick up her money off the table and put it in her pocket. He or she. I'm gonna ask AI that too. I'm gonna say, how are taxes done that way now? But can you imagine the money being made? Crazy amount. Here, you guys can have these scraps. Only if you file your taxes, though. You got to file taxes. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. I'm done for today. My rant. Today's Friday. Oh yeah, today is Friday. Thank you for joining QJC as always. October. Hello. You guys catch it later. Leave a comment. Like I said, I'm looking to collab with some people, man. So if you guys find somebody that may want to understand or become listen, collab, or maybe you want to get out of the debt matrix. You come across this video, never heard it before. I can beam you. It's like, put it this way: the SMD perspective is like light years away from the debt matrix perspective. I can beam you out of the debt matrix perspective out of there. I can't guarantee you that you'll come here because there's a lot of steps to reach to the SMD perspective. But I can guarantee you, I can beam you out of the debt matrix perspective into now whatever perspective you land on. It will kind of be up to you personally. How you are, the person you are, how you do your money, how you treated your money, or whatever, right, will determine what perspective you will land on outside of the debt matrix perspective. Okay? Because There's also perspectives within perspectives. So think about all the millions of debt slaves within the single debt matrix perspective. Each one of those debt slaves inside of the debt matrix perspective, each have their own perspective inside the debt matrix perspective. And then you break it down into skin color and races and churches and politics. It just goes, it just breaks all up, just millions of different pieces. They don't understand that none of that matters because they're debt slaves, all of them. All right, you guys have a wonderful evening. Until next time, later.